Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and right alongside here, of course, always every week is none other than LPGA professional and Legends Tour player Cindy Miller. Good morning, Cindy. How are you doing?
Good morning, Ted. I'm great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Let me, before we get started with some conversation, let me just remind everybody, of course, that we are live every Tuesday mornings here, unless otherwise specified, here on blogtalkradio.com. Women of Golf, and the best way to find us, of course, is go to www.blogtalkradio.com, and up in the search key type the Women of Golf, and that will take you to the main page, where, of course, on the Tuesday mornings, the current live broadcast will be right at the top. But for some reason, if you're not able to join us, you can scroll down after the show, and in the on-demand section, it will have in order of the most current shows all of the previously aired shows. So you can go down there and listen to any of the ones that you might have missed. And I strongly suggest that you do so. There's some great shows back in the archives and lots of good information, lots of great guests. So make sure you do that when you get a chance. But we thank you for joining us live this morning. Also, for those of you that use iTunes a lot, you can go to itunes.com, and in the podcast section, you can, again, type in Women of Golf, and that will get you there just as easily. If you want to call into the program or speak to Cindy and I or any of the guests at any point during the live broadcast on Tuesdays, you can do so by calling area code 347-945-5855. You can also email any questions or comments to womenofgolf@gmail.com. And if you're interested in coming on the show, you can get in touch through Cindy at cindymillergolf.com, and make sure you also visit her website, cindymillergolf.com. And if you just want to say hello to me, you can do so at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. Got a great show for you this morning coming up here in just a few moments. Beth Allen, who was supposed to be on a few weeks ago and unfortunately got mixed up, I guess, with the schedule and whatnot, but not a problem. She's an LPGA professional, and she's the winner of this year's Honda European Masters, tongue's a little tied again this morning. And a little bit later in the program, we're going to be joined by Jim Yeager, who is a sales rep up in the upstate New York area for Callaway Golf. He'll be joining us here a little bit later in the broadcast. Cindy, lots of things going on in Cindy Miller's world. You played in a Pro-Am yesterday.
Yes, I was fortunate enough to be paired and played in the Wendy's Charity Golf Classic, its 15th year, to raise money for the Dave Thomas Adoption Foundation, where they help place children in loving families and homes. And so it's a great thing, a cause that we play in each year. And I was fortunate enough to have a couple of women from Buffalo who wanted to play, and they went over to Michigan with me, and we had a great time. We were the only all-women group, and we did not win. But we had a ball, and we helped raise $252,000 for the Dave Thomas Adoption Foundation.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah, I remember when he first started doing that, first started talking about his charity, and of course Dave Thomas is no longer with us, but I know that was something that was very passionate about him, and it's good to see that Wendy's has continued that tradition. They've done a lot of great work through golf for his foundation, and it's nice to see that. And you know what? The other thing, too, is not only is it for a great cause, but everybody has a great time. I think an extra special time, because they know that the money that's being raised through the Pro-Am event is going for a good cause. So it just makes it that much more fun and enjoyable being out there, knowing that you're doing something to help some youngsters out there that maybe need a bit of a lift up, if you will.
Absolutely, that's for sure. And Pat Bradley was there, Nancy Lopez, Donna Capone, Michelle McGann, Lori Rinker, Cindy Rick, Jan Stevenson. We had a great time.
Mm. Now, also of note, I mentioned earlier that yesterday was your hubby's birthday.
It was. Alan Miller is getting old.
And I'm sure he just loved to hear
that. So am I.
Well, that's good. Well, happy birthday, Al.
Better than sleeping outside permanently, right?
Yeah. Well, happy birthday, Alan, if you happen to be listening in. I hope you had a great day, and glad that you were able to enjoy it. And I understand you said that he had a steak dinner. Yes,
he did. Matthew was here and made him a nice steak dinner while I was driving back from Jackson, Michigan. So he had a nice evening.
Perfect. Well, Alan, I hope you enjoyed it, and again, happy birthday. Mm-hmm. Lots of things going on in golf, and next week, I know we talked about a little bit off air. We're going to be having somebody, one of the coaches, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, from one of the colleges that's going to be coming on here. We're going to talk a little bit about college golf. So looking forward to that next week, because I think that's something, as I was mentioning, Cindy, that I think a lot of parents might be interested in if they've got an up-and-coming, the next rising star, if you will, and they want to get them involved in college golf. Definitely want to tune in next week and hear about how that goes and some of the things that they might need to do to prepare for that.
Absolutely. Kim Llewellyn's going to join us, the head women's golf coach at the University of Virginia.
Perfect. So make sure, for those of you that are listening this week, pass the word around. We'd love for you to tune in next week as well and listen to that. It should be good, an interesting show. We're just waiting here for Beth to come on board, and it looks like she's actually here. So let me just do a quick introduction, Cindy, and then we'll bring Beth Allen on. As I mentioned, Beth is our first guest this morning. She's an LPGA professional and winner of this year's Honda European Masters, Ladies Masters. And she's originally from San Diego here in the United States, but currently based out of Scotland, playing on the European Ladies Tour and the PGA Scotland Ladies Tartan Tour. She attended the California State University and turned professional back in 2005, qualifying to play, of course, on the U.S. LPGA Tour until she decided to move to the European Tour back in 2008. And she also, something of note, again, very interesting, she donated a kidney to her brother in 2011, which is very honorable, and then returned to tour life, if you will, a few months after the operation. So that's not an easy feat, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Currently, she is third in the Ladies European Tour Order of Merit, after, of course, her win this year at the Honda European Masters. And she's ranked 19th U.S. player in the world rankings. She's also a well-respected member of the Europeans Later Tour and is a member of the Tour's Board of Management as well as the Players' Council. She'll be, of course, attending the forthcoming Solheim Cup in Germany as a liaison for the Tour. So I'm sure she's excited to watch some of the young ladies through the LPGA playing in the Solheim Cup. And, of course, she regularly supports the Scottish Ladies Golf Association in their development with young golfers. And she took part in the 26-mile kilt walk with a group of friends raising funds for York Hill Children's Hospital in Glasgow. So without any further ado, let's welcome Beth Allen. Good morning, Beth. Welcome to the Women of Golf.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing very well. You're on here, of course, with Cindy Miller and I.
Good morning,
Hi.
Beth.
Hi, Cindy. How are you?
Good, honey. Thanks for calling in. What time is it there?
It is just after 2 in the afternoon.
And where are you calling us from?
Scotland, Edinburgh.
Oh, wow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Are you playing this week?
Nope, I've got 3 weeks off until I play in Sweden, and then the week after that is Evian. So preparing for that.
That's nice. So tell us about your journey thus far, because we had the opportunity to play. I think it was in the Florida Open, or maybe on the Symetra Tour somewhere 1,000 years ago, and we had a ball playing. I want to say it was with Courtney Reno.
At Solheim.
Yes.
Yeah, Courtney's my best friend. So I've been kind of all over the place. And since 2005, I played on the LPGA for 4 years, and then I played in a handful of events on the Symetra Tour, then the Futures Tour, and then in 2008 I played both LPGA and European tours, and then decided just to do full-time in 2009 in Europe. And I thought I would do that, just for a little bit to get some confidence and do some traveling at the same time. And now I absolutely fell in love with the tour and cannot manage to leave. So it's good.
Now, Beth, obviously, congratulations, of course, on your win this year at the Honda European Masters. What a great honor that is to have that under your belt. What was your strategy going into the tournament? If so, what was it?
Thank you, first of all. But I kind of had an interesting strategy going into that week because I'd done really well there in 2012 and made triple on the 17th hole, in the last round, and ended up losing by 1. So it was like a horrible, horrible thing, and it was probably the worst golf experience I've ever had, and I didn't sleep for a week, and it was just terrible. And since then, I sort of was, I don't know what it was probably something in the back of my mind. But I'd missed the cut there in 13 and 14, and I'm a pretty consistent player. I've probably only missed a couple of cuts a year, and for me to miss that one was such a heartbreaker because it's our home event and stuff. So I went into this year with very little expectation and just kind of small goals. And I started with a new caddy who you guys might know, is Sophie Gustafsson. So she was just taking a break from golf and asked if she could help me. And I kind of don't have a regular caddy. I've had them in the past, but not recently. And I said that would be really, really great. So it was our first week together, and we sort of just made a plan on every hole, and we stuck to it really. I hit it, and weeks before I didn't always play certain types of shot. I would sort of pick a target, hit it to that target. If it went that way, good. If it didn't, figure it out. But this time we said, okay, you're going to hit, a fade to this place or a draw to this place in every hole. Sort of, we had a map almost, and that was the first time I ever tried that, and seemingly it worked. So we're going to stick for the future. But yeah, so that was the one of the differences that week.
Wow, that's awesome.
Now, Beth, let me ask you, because you raised an interesting point, and this would be something to help some of the listeners, because obviously it shows that even at the professional level, every once in a while we have a stumble. Now, you said back in 2012, if I'm correct, that obviously on the 17th you had that triple bogey, and it obviously affected you, as you said, for at least a week after. What do you do as a professional? And again, I want to sort of help some of the amateurs that might be listening into the program, because they obviously have their own struggles and challenges playing golf. What do you do to sort of get yourself refocused and regrouped? You've had a bad round. You've didn't end the tournament as well as you had hoped, and it obviously affected even the best of us. What do you do psychologically to sort of say, okay, I need to get back on track. I need to put that behind me. What process, if any, do you have that you try to do that?
First of all, I think that these things happen and you kind of have to learn from them and gain experience, and that's sort of what happened to me at that moment. So if that occurred again, I think I would have dealt with it better. But like every day, if I had a bad hole, I work with Dr. Joe Parent, who's the writer of Zen Golf, and we sort of make a line, wouldn't forget it, and that is, one of the cliches in mental golf, but it is the only way you can, like, for example, this week, I had.
We're having
Beth, you're coming in and out. We're having some trouble with the Skype.
Yeah, it's actually just dropped the call. She must be having some difficulties. That's okay. I'm sure she'll call back in. We'll just wait for. Oh, there she is, right there. Hi, Beth. Welcome back. We had a little bit of technical. That's okay. It started to fade in. I hate to ask you to do this, but can you maybe kind of go back a step or two and just sort of repeat what you were saying, because we kind of lost bits and pieces of it here.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I think I mentioned that I work with Dr. Parent, who's the author of Zen Golf. He basically, we've worked with these things like for years, and it's definitely not easy, but I guess what I try and do is, make a line, and then once I cross the line, after I hit a bad shot or I have a bad hole, then I have to just forget it and move on. I think it's like a little bit silly to think that you will completely forget it, because it's obviously back there, but just to focus more on what's going on in the present is the most important thing. And that takes time. So as a young player, that was really, really hard for me. And now, being on tour for 10 years now, it's a little bit easier. Last week I played the first round in the Czech Republic and had a triple on my front nine, and then made, I think I had, 4 birdies. I ended up shooting 3 under anyway, but it's sort of like, if you can forgive yourself and keep going forward, then it's so much easier than beating yourself up the moment that happens, because then it's kind of no coming back from there.
Yeah, and and the reason why I wanted to ask you that, Beth, is because a lot of amateurs, and you made a valid point, is that you learned from that experience back in 2012, and even though you had some issues with it, and it certainly, is going to affect the best of us. You were able to develop a process, if you will, and realize, okay, I need to stay in the present and not, sort of go back and learn from that experience. And a lot of amateurs have that struggle with that, and I think that's why when they're not hitting well or they're not playing well in their events or tournaments that they may be involved with, or even if it's just with their friends on the weekend, they seem to remember the last 3 or 4 rounds being bad and carry that into the present and future. You're also going to be going to the Solheim Cup. Tell us a little bit about that.
I am on the board of directors for the Ladies European Tour, and we go to the Solheim Cup sort of as liaisons for, we also have a board meeting in Germany that week for, so I'm going mainly for that, but to also to support our tour and, my friends too. Like, it's an awkward one for me, obviously, because I'm American, but I play on the European Tour, and so what I say is, I'm supporting my friends, I hope the best team wins, and it usually does. So whether that's my American friends or the tour that I support, I'm happy either way.
Yeah, that does kind of put you in an uncompromising position. Again, being American, and but playing on of course, with the European ladies now, so it does make it a little bit. So you have to kind of remain somewhat neutral. So that's a good save right there. That's a good save. Now, Cindy has obviously played a lot of great golf herself, and she's done some things with owning your game. And Cindy, we did on the program here earlier on last year, she did a whole series, I think it was 12 shows if I'm not mistaken, about owning your game. How do you own your game? Tell us a little bit about your game, what you do to prepare and take charge, if you will.
I'm still figuring it out because I think every year I learn something, but I think now I'm at the point where the most important thing for my game is confidence. And like I feel like I've put tons of work in for a lot of years, and managing like my fitness and my rest and everything like that, it all contributes to like my confidence. If I feel prepared and confident going into an event, no matter how much practice I've done or anything, like if I'm confident, I'm going to play well, even if I've because I've been battling an elbow injury a little bit this year, and I've not practiced as much as I want to, but I'm still playing well, and I have to believe in myself. And even though maybe I see other people putting in more work, I know that I've done that, and I'm confident in what I'm doing. So that's like probably the number one thing for me to own my game. But then on top of that, like knowing my weaknesses, like I take really, really detailed stats, and I learn from them, and the weaknesses are they're really minuscule at the level that we play, and the more that I can learn from those stats, because when you're out there you don't notice like what is going on every round. So if I see like I've missed a 58-degree wedge a few times, then in my stats, I probably wouldn't have remembered that from the round. So learning from those things and then just sharpening little tiny things, that's like how I really choose to own my game, so that I know that I'm ready and confident to play every week.
So my question is I guess my statement is, what I hear from you is, for you to be able to own your game, you have to be willing to look in the mirror and see the truth about Beth and her stats, and your proximities and how close you're getting into the hole and what might be weak, so that you can work on it, because one shot here or there can totally change your confidence and your ability to bounce back and go back into the present moment instead of ruminating over and over and beating yourself up. Is that true?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And sometimes, and no matter what level I think that you're playing, you get wrapped up in the moment, and if you can't recognize what went on at that moment, it's easier to look back after you're around and say, oh, okay, like you look at your notes and say, oh, that happened more than once, and I can fix that, so the next time, like, I don't have to worry about it. But you're right, like being true to yourself and knowing like that there's always room to get better is a really important thing.
Let me. What have you learned? I teach a lot of kids, and whose parents pressure them to perform better. And so sometimes I think the kids are more concerned about making mommy and daddy happy rather than learning how to play. And sometimes I have to warn the parents, if you don't stop, I'm going to have to duct tape your mouth, and body language. And so I think what happens when you get a little older, you get a little wiser, because your experience of triple bogeying the 17th hole might have been the best, worst thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah, definitely.
But at the time, you're bleeding to death, and you don't want to hear that. So what would you say to a young player to help them realize that this is not always going to be easy, because you've been trying to do this for a long time, and that's my, I really admire you for not giving up and going where you're comfortable and playing where you want to play and going against the road, if you will. So what would you say to a young player who's wondering, should I keep doing this? What made you not quit?
I think that the main, I guess, to answer your last question, I never quit because I always believed in myself, and if I didn't, then I wouldn't be playing golf for a living. And also, I always find time to enjoy myself, always. And that's not the case for everybody. And I see it, like, on the LPGA, and that's one of the reasons why I left, because I was having a hard time finding people to have fun with. And that is totally fine if that's how somebody, if that's...
You know what? I have to interrupt you. I happen to be, I volunteered at the KPMG, and I'm not going to mention this player's name, but she's a friend of yours. And I think I may have even been playing with you and her at the same time. And she's on the tour, and I walked up. She gave me a big hug. She goes, "Oh, my God, how are you? I haven't seen you in so long." And it's kind of like I'm the old lady mom. And and I said, "Are you having fun?" And she turned and looked at me like, what a weird question. And I said, "Are you having fun?" And she said, "I don't know." And I said, "You might want to ask yourself that, because I can tell you that you should be appreciating what you're doing, and you should enjoy this, because life on the other side, when you have to make a real living, is not that fun. So try to have some fun."
Yeah. That's what I would tell young kids too. Like when I work with the young Scottish girls here, I always, first of all, I treat them all the same, like no matter what level they are. And also if they're playing another sport, I don't discourage them from doing that. If their parents put pressure on them, I just say, remember, like, this is what you want to do, like, you don't have to do it. Just, little things here and there, but at the end of the day, it's so important. Like, I didn't start playing golf till I was 15. I think that is also kind of put me in a different mental sort of, because so many girls, there's girls now, like, on our tour last year where we had a 16-year-old that, she won the Order of Merit. So it's like, at that point in time, I was like, I was still playing basketball and doing totally different things. And, that's all good and stuff, but I think you have to be realistic. Not everybody is a prodigy. And not everyone has to be that way to make a living on tour. And I think if I'm a competitor, and most girls that like are athletes are, and if they want to try, it doesn't mean you have to be the best in the world. You don't have to do what's right for you. If you want to be, really good, you have to put a lot of work into it, but you cannot like beat yourself up, and you can't make it your be all and end all. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And just one sort of final thought on that. I did a show this past Thursday, and one of the guys that was on there, he's originally from England, and he talked very similar to what you were saying, Beth, and about he was down at Bishop's Gate in Florida, And he was making the comment that one of the problems that they often see with some of the youngsters coming in is, again, this pressure from parents. And he said something that was very, very interesting. He said that, what a lot of parents really should do is, I think introducing kids to sports is a great thing, but introduce them to a bunch of different sports and sort of let them pick and choose. And if golf happens to be something that they gravitate to, fantastic. And certainly introduce them to golf. But I think there's too many that, as you said, that you sort of see, maybe this youngster is doing pretty well in golf, and they just automatically, it's like a vacuum. They just suck them into everything and anything they can about golf, and it may not necessarily be what the youngster wants, or certainly at that time. So we have to be careful, and I think introducing them to, a lot of different options gives them the choice of what they like. And again, even if they don't end up playing golf professionally or even at a collegiate level, certainly by being exposed to the game at an early age, they're going to probably gravitate as they go through life and play golf, even as an amateur. But I think that sort of pounding on them and grinding, and Cindy, I'm sure you see this, as you've mentioned, all the time in your teaching with some of these parents. They're just hovering like vultures.
Yeah.
And that's something
I think that's pretty dangerous.
Well, it's very dangerous, and again, it's just you want to. I have a young girl that I'm teaching who's playing in a 2-day, the season-ending Western New York PGA Championship thing, and I asked her to text me, and she's got a dad that does this hovering that I've warned I'm going to duct tape his mouth, and so she texts me while I'm driving back from the Legends Tour event yesterday. I was 6 up. Now, this is a 36-hole event. Yesterday was the first round. I was 6 up on 14 and had trouble on 15, 16, and 17. I'm leading by 1.
Oh.
And I text her back. I go, how you stand on 14 on the first round has absolutely nothing to do with how you play. Please focus on the task at hand and don't worry about anyone else. And my fear is that her father probably said, you're leading by 6. And so I just want to go, oh, my God, I'm going to shoot you. Shut up.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's so, it happens, all over the place. Yeah, it's a shame, too, because I know that every parent wants their child to do well and stuff, but I don't know if some maybe don't realize that what they're doing might be pushing them away. So it's better to let them grow on their own, I think.
Well, and something else that he mentioned, this gentleman that was on the other night said too. He said by the time they get to be about 18, which is when they want to be out playing with their friends and having a good time and even I hate to say it, but maybe even getting into a little partying or something.
Yeah.
They're in such a regiment of golf that they can't have fun and be who they are, just be a kid. I mean, 18-year-olds is still pretty young, and but they have to. They're sort of forced to stay focused on the task at hand, and they have to find balance. And I think that's really what you have to do in life in general. Is you have to find balance. Great, if you want to be that next great golfer, but you also have to have some life balance as well. Beth, we want to thank you for...
That's why college golf was so good too, actually. So
right.
Helps you learn how to balance and it helps you live a little too, along with getting experience playing golf.
Well, sure, and you want to, and there's nothing wrong with if that's a desire that you have. But as both of you have mentioned, Cindy particularly, when you've got those parents sort of hovering around and just pushing you in, a lot of times the child just does it just to please the parent, and maybe deep down that's not really what they want to do, or certainly maybe aren't ready for that commitment. They're pulled in several different directions. Their friends are wanting to do one thing, and dad and even mom to some degree is wanting them to do something else, and then they have their own internal struggles going on, and they're trying to please everybody, and ultimately maybe some good golfers end up walking away because they just can't handle the pressure any longer. Beth, we want to thank you for joining us this morning, and appreciate you calling in from over in Scotland. And we want to wish you much continued success. And again, congratulations on your win this year for the European Masters, and lots of great success for the rest of the year and into 2016.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. That was fun.
Beth,
all right,
thank you so much. Good luck, honey.
Thanks, Sydney. Thank you.
Proud of you.
I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Okay, sweetie. Thanks.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, that was Beth Allen. Sorry, I got you two mixed up. Beth Allen, excuse me, LPGA professional and the winner of the Honda European Masters this year. Congratulations, and I see that Jim is ready to go here, so we're going to bring him out. Let me just do a quick introduction. Jim Yeager, of course, is a sales rep for Callaway Golf Sales up in the upstate New York area, so you're quite familiar with him, I know, Cindy. He's been in the golf business since 1996 and has worked as a sales rep since 99. He was with Mizuno for about a decade and Adams for close to 5 years, and Cleveland for a little bit less than that, actually a little less than a year, and of course now settled in nicely with Callaway. He was the National Sales Rep of the Year for Mizuno in 2008 and being on the Rep Advisory Committee for Mizuno and Adams Golf. He's also worked as an assistant golf professional for about 4 or 5 years and carried a plus handicap for 5 or 6 years, and currently plays to about a 4. He only plays about 10, 11 times a year. I'm sure he's busy with Callaway. Married 21 years, 2 kids, both daughter at 17 and his son is 15. And he's also considers himself to be an endurance sports junkie. He's run 11 marathons, wow, including both the Boston and the New York Marathon. And he's competed in 3 half Ironman triathlons and many, many more races as well. So we'll talk to him a little bit about that. So let's bring on Jim Yeager.
Good morning, Jim. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for the introduction.
I tried to get everything in there. There was quite a bit, and I know I left a couple of things out. But, Jim, before we get started, obviously we want to talk golf here, but I want to just give you, because it was just such an interesting introduction here of some things. You entered into you've been involved in a lot of different triathlons and marathons, and even coaching hockey. I left that out, I know, but coaching hockey. So a man of many talents. Tell us a little bit about some of the marathons.
It's funny. I'll start real quick. I'll tell you, I played on a hockey team when I was a younger kid, and we ended up winning the national championship. And the Boston Marathon, I was there in 2013 when the whole bombing thing happened. I was actually already finished, but it is just an unbelievable experience running the whole thing, but the last 2 miles of that race is just unbelievable. The people, you run right through downtown, so with the tall buildings and the people are yelling, screaming, and it's just a feeling that, you feel like you're running down the tunnel to the Super Bowl for 2 miles straight. It's just an unbelievable experience. So I just absolutely loved it.
And how long is the marathon? How many miles is the marathon?
It's 26.2 miles. Gosh. So it takes a little while to get from start to finish. But
wow.
It's fun.
Yeah, obviously a lot of preparation and something that not only physically but mentally that's quite a leap to have to go 26 miles. To some people's minds it doesn't sound like a lot when you look at the grand scheme of things, but it is a lot, and I'm sure mentally it takes a lot of preparation for that.
I'll tell you a funny story. I ran my first one, and I ran it with my brother, and it was in Jacksonville, Florida, and we decided to go up to the race site a couple days early, and the day before we were going to drive the race course just to see what we were going to be running, and it took us 50 minutes to drive it.
Wow.
And I thought, it's taking us an hour to drive this thing. What are we doing trying to run this thing? So it was a pretty daunting task, but once you get in it, you just kind of get focused and get rolling, and it's all good.
Exactly. Well, congratulations on that. That's a feat in itself. But Obviously, we want to talk a little golf, and so why don't you tell us? Obviously, you're with Callaway, and tell us a little bit about what some of the exciting things that are going on, and obviously, tell us a little bit about some of the success that Callaway has developed over especially the recent years in the golf market. It's not an easy market to be in.
I'll start big and kind of get small. Callaway is really knocking it out of the park now. They're kind of returning to their old form, being a market leader in just about every category. Right now, Callaway sits as the number one iron, hybrid, fairway wood, and putter in golf. And we've got some new woods that we're launching in the next couple weeks here that have done exceptionally well, both in player testing, demo days, and sell-in so far. So we're cautiously optimistic that could really launch us to the top of the driver category as well.
Well, fantastic.
So, yeah, it's a great place to be right now. A lot of the folks that I don't know if you're familiar with a gentleman named Chip Brewer, but Chip is the CEO of Callaway, and he was the CEO of Adams Golf when I was over there. So a lot of the management team from Adams has joined Chip over there. So when I started with Callaway, it was kind of like an old homecoming, and a lot of the same strategies that we're working at Adams are kind of in place with Callaway now, and it's fun having a company the size of Callaway to be able to watch these things really grow and work in the marketplace.
That's awesome.
Now, obviously, Callaway is very well known for its Big Bertha series of woods. Tell us a little bit about that. What can we see? Is there another Big Bertha coming?
There is, actually. I'll let the cat out of the bag. We've got we're working right now on selling in the Great Big Bertha. The Great Big Bertha family of woods is it's kind of a culmination of the last 2 or 3 generations of technology that we've had. We've been able to put it all into one golf club. And, you know, it's funny, when I saw the name, I thought, well, it's kind of a natural to go from the Big Bertha to the Great Big Bertha. And then if you sit back and you think about when the original Great Big Bertha came out back in the 90s, there are several game changers that kind of changed the face of the industry. And I believe that, you know, I was working for a competitor at the time that came out, and I believe that is one of those industry game changers. And the reason I say that, on any given week on the tour when that came out, you'd find 60% of the tour players playing that golf club. And then on the weekend, you could go to any private or public golf course anywhere and find 30 handicappers playing the same golf club.
Right.
And, you know, it's just interesting that you can find something that's that good that works for everybody. And we feel that this driver is in that same class of golf club. You know, it really has something to offer. It's just so versatile. It has something to offer for everybody. So I've had...
Well, I can tell you that I have now gotten more yardage. So, Ted, there's hope for everybody to hit it further. Thanks to Callaway, Great Big Bertha, and Jim Yeager.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny, you know, Jim, that you mentioned that. So true. I remember when I was changing my clubs a number of years back, and this was about the time when Big Bertha first came out as well. And I was playing a competitor driver at the time, and I was looking for something new. And I actually got sold. I was playing some different irons, but I got sold the driver 3 and 5 wood that came out in that line, the Big Bertha line. And I got to concur with you, Cindy. I mean, they were just phenomenal. I still, to this day, I still have those 3. I keep them in pristine shape, and I pull them out and I play them all the time. Now, these were, of course, you know, the smaller heads, because they were smaller heads at that time. But I just love them, and they are definitely they held up to their name, that's for sure. And you're right, there were a lot of tour players that were playing them, and then of course what the amateurs see on tour they want to emulate. So it certainly has been a great line for Callaway for sure. Let me ask you, because there's been speaking of changes in golf. Let me just back up real quick, just on that note, Jim. Can you, since you've let the cat out of the bag, when can we expect that to hit the market?
They're actually going to hit the marketplace the end of August.
Wow.
we've got a couple of different drivers coming out in that family that will have slightly different launch dates, but you'll start to see stuff in stores August 28th, and kind of new stuff rolling in through the next couple of weeks following that.
Okay, great. That's well, definitely for those of you tuning in, you want to go and check it out. That Big Bertha line is definitely a fantastic line, and I'm excited to see what you guys have done with the latest version. One of the other things that I want to ask you as well is the differences. There's been a lot of changes in the industry over the years. Traditionally, it was always sort of the forged blade. Now there's different types of blades and different types of cast irons on the market. Tell us a little bit about the difference between and why Callaway's line has done so well.
Let me kind of, again, I'll start big and kind of get small. I think, when you're in the early days of making golf clubs, this is 50, 60 years ago, everybody made forged golf clubs because we didn't really know how else to do it. And then things started with the casting of clubs and making cavity back golf clubs and basically making a more forgiving club head. And then through the years, it's always been kind of felt like we've had either forged clubs for good players that were hard to hit, or we had cast clubs that were cavity back for higher handicappers because they were easy to hit. And in the last maybe 15, 20 years or so, things have kind of changed where we've got cast golf clubs that are every bit as good for good players as a good forging, and forged clubs that are cavity back and every bit as forgiving and good for a higher handicap player. So, really what's happening is different companies are finding their niche and finding that they can appeal to different player types. And so, that kind of brings us to where we are maybe the last 2 or 3 years. And from my seat, what it seems like is happening is we've gone from making a certain iron that would appeal to a handicap range of, say, a 10 to a 25. And if you look at it from the big picture, that's a pretty big range, and that's a pretty big ability difference between a 25 handicapper and a 10. And probably they're going to need something different. And what's happening now is we're able to better group how we manufacture equipment, and we can actually target smaller groups of players more effectively. So we can specifically target the senior player, the lady player, that 10 to 15 handicapper instead of a 10 to 25 handicapper. And it really has made golf more fun for a lot of people by being able to manufacture in such a precise way. From a manufacturing standpoint, we obviously want to manufacture and we want to touch as many people as we can with a certain iron model or iron type. But I think it really makes a lot of sense to be able to really segment and really get it dialed into a specific group, and that way it'll really work for that guy.
So is this, Jim, is this why then you see so many of the manufacturers like Callaway, coming out with so many different products? It's not just the sake of launching another product. It's because you're trying to narrow that gap with the different levels of players. So again, like you said, you're not coming out with a product that's hitting such a huge range. You've got several products now that can cover maybe that 10 to 25 handicap player.
That's exactly right. And you could say it that, if you make a golf club that might work for a 30-year-old male who's a 10 handicapper, what that 10 handicapper would need could be substantially different from a 65-year-old female who's a 10 handicapper or a 65-year-old male who's a 10 handicapper. So we kind of, we're able to build equipment that will work for not only the ability level but also the age and demographic of the player.
Right. Well, and this works perfectly into the next question then, a great lead-in. Thank you. Obviously, we need to be properly fitted, and there's a lot of technology there to help along the way. So how does leave the pros out for a second, because we know that they've got everything, a great arsenal at their But for some of the less professionals out there, the higher handicappers, what's available out there for them to help? How does Callaway go through the process? You've got a lot of demo days, obviously, to get them exposed to the equipment, but what's sort of the natural progression, if you will, of getting somebody properly fitted and getting them equipped with a set of irons or a set of woods and what have you?
I'm gonna shamelessly plug our new driver, and I'll kind of use that as an example. One of the things that we had kind of done as a starting point with this driver is we started with a little survey that we did with Golf. I think it was Golf Digest, and basically walking people through a fitting process. And we picked just average amateurs, just on a random, however long of a period this was, and it was a grouping of people that had been properly fit, people that had never been fit, people that had been sort of fit, whatever, to try to figure out the correlation between fitting a golf club and the performance that player could expect. What kind of was the ceiling that player A could expect, at the end result of this fitting process? And what they found was that the average guy, this is the average player, leaves 21.5 yards on the table by not being fit properly with currently what they're playing today compared to being properly fit to a new driver that's out there today. And the interesting thing about it is that from doing the demo day thing and the fitting thing throughout the last, I'm even going to just say 6 or 8 weeks with this new driver, I'm finding I fit players and found 50 yards. I fit a woman. Wow. This is no joke. She hit her driver 135 yards, and when she was done, she hit it 180 as she went through the fitting process. She kissed me. She said she'd never hit a golf ball that far in her life.
Holy cow!
I had a male player that was, and I knew as soon as he hit his own driver, I knew that he should be hitting it further, but he was hitting it 230, and when we were done, he was hitting it 280, and and I told him, I said, I can't believe that's the difference of a 5-iron to a pitching wedge hitting it into that green. And it's a game changer for people. And so what's happening is with this driver, we have 19 different shafts in 4 different weight categories that we use, along with all kinds of adjustability for launch conditions and spin rates and things like that, so we can totally dial in a player's launch conditions to allow them to hit the golf ball not only further but straighter as well. And I think the biggest misconception is you need to swing it faster to hit it further. And swing speed makes a difference, but it doesn't make as much of a difference. The player that was 230, this male player, his swing speed was over 100 miles an hour. He was a pretty hard swinging guy, and just it wasn't that he had a bad golf swing. He just didn't have the launch conditions. He had way, way, way too much spin and way not enough loft on his current driver, and the ball wasn't going anymore. It just wasn't in the air long enough.
Right.
And I think if you go through the fitting process, anybody listening, you will be very pleasantly surprised. You'll find something in there that will find you more yardage and straighter. So to answer your question, I use a TrackMan, which is a launch monitor that's a radar-based golf ball flight analyzer tool, and it'll analyze not only the ball but the golf club head as it comes through the hitting area, and it'll tell me exactly what is happening with every shot. And a lot of it is trial and error. We'll watch shots. I mean, Cindy and I went through this process, and a lot of it is trial and error. We look at shots, and then, you have to know, the operator has to know where to go next. Having the data is one thing, but as a fitter, you have to know, hey, if the ball does this, you need to try this or this or this. And, we kind of got Cindy, when we went through the process with Cindy, we had her dialed in. She was an easy fit because she's got a great golf swing, but anybody, and Cindy's very repeatable, so it was pretty easy to find some yardage with her. But it's still, Cindy, how long did it take? It was an hour anyways, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And you know what else? I think it's important to have someone fit you who knows what they're doing and doesn't just go by the TrackMan. The good thing about Jim is he said, let's go outside and watch this ball fly.
Right.
And we
True.
did that, and I can tell you that the ball carried so much further. The club is lighter. It's, I changed the weight. I went out the first time with a demo, and I was hitting hooks, so I changed the weight on it, and I played yesterday and didn't hook one, and it's amazing.
And
wow.
I think the trajectory was a bit different, wasn't it, too?
Yeah,
it was just
stayed in the
flying
air
a little
longer.
higher than, flying a little higher. Today when we fit, a lot of it is about hang time. We want to try to get the ball in the air and keep it in the air as long as we can. And the trajectory, most players that I talk to are so used to that line drive, kind of a missile, kind of a ball flight, and it just does not stay in the air long enough. And if you can kind of change your thinking, and if you watch a tour player hit it, I mean, their driver trajectory looks like my 6-iron looks. But the ball is in the air forever, and that's what helps them to hit it as far as they do.
And also the ball needs to be, there's fitting for golf balls as well. A lot of people don't realize that. How do you match up? Why is that important, especially for amateur golfers, to understand that?
I'll tell you a funny story, and I'm not going to tell you the brand, but I did a ball fitting. I was working, I think I was with Mizuno at the time, so this is going back 10 years ago or so, and I did a ball fitting, and I never had heard of a ball fitting, and one of my buddies was a rep for a golf ball, and he said, "Here, try this." And so we went and we hit golf balls into a net, and I found 17 yards with my driver by changing golf balls. So if you don't think it matters, it absolutely matters. That's one of the least expensive changes that you can make, finding the right golf ball for your game. So golf ball is interesting because, they also are made for different swing speeds, and how hard you swing it will kind of dictate how much you can compress the golf ball. And you can get optimal launch conditions by changing golf ball and finding the right one. If you're willing to kind of go through the process, it's not at all uncommon to find yardage like that by making a golf ball change. Just because the tour players are using a golf ball doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right golf ball for you. It could be, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is. And that's really at any level of play. So finding the right golf ball is key.
Yeah, sure. And a lot of, and especially with the amateurs, I think obviously again the pros have so much available to them of information, and obviously every week on the tours they have the trailers there that they can go and get things adjusted and tweaked as needed. But obviously the amateurs or high handicappers out there don't know any better, so they need to get in touch with their local professional and obviously make sure that they're being fitted properly by a proper club fitter, as Cindy had indicated. We're getting kind of close to the end of time here, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk also about, you had mentioned in your notes to us about Odyssey as being the forgotten brand for you guys, yet having a pretty substantial market share. Tell us a little bit about that and what you meant by that.
It's funny. I remember I started talking to Callaway about switching over to Callaway, and I was so excited about it. And I walked into a Golf Galaxy store down in Pittsburgh, and if you've ever been in that store, it is absolutely mammoth. It's just a huge, huge store. And I was on the phone with my wife, and I was talking to her as I was walking through the store, and I was that guy. And I walked through the store, and as I walked towards the iron and wood section, I passed the putters, and there was this huge sign for Odyssey, and I thought, holy cow, I forgot all about that. Callaway has Odyssey, too. And Odyssey is the number one putter brand in the world. They have just an obscene market share globally. They're the number one putter in this country as well, and it's mind-boggling to me how much of a share they have and how many different models they have and how diverse the line is for any level of player. And it's funny having this putter brand and being around it for the last 3 months or so. I just have not been able to find any kind of a constant with the models and player ability and anything like that. It just seems like putting is so personal preference that you really have to try them and see which one works for you. And Odyssey
Right.
is crazy how they, they just have, anybody can find something with Odyssey that will work for them. It's just, it's nuts.
Yeah.
So.
And I think, do you think though, Jim, that maybe because it does have such a large market share, and it's done so well worldwide, and as you'd mentioned here, I think 40% of the market share worldwide, which is substantial. I mean, that's nearly half of the golfers out there are using Odyssey. Do you think that when it gets to that level, that sometimes you kind of, in the back of your mind, you think, okay, this is a well-established brand. We don't need to make any tweaks or adjustments here. It's a well-oiled machine, in other words, that it kind of gets out of track a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, I think potentially that's definitely a possibility. I remember, I don't know how much time we have, but I remember being at a demo day one time, and I was talking to another rep, and we were saying that, it's funny how you can get a player that can come up and hit. I was working for Mizuno, and they can hit this Mizuno iron and hit it horribly, and then walk away and tell their buddies, "Man, what a great feeling iron." And and I'm thinking to myself, you just hit that thing so bad, but you think it feels good, and the perception is that Mizuno makes a great iron, they make a great feeling iron, and so that's what you perceive a good iron should feel like. Same thing with years ago with TaylorMade with the driver, and I think Odyssey with the putter is somewhat the same. The perception is that Odyssey makes the best putters in the world, so that's what a good putter should feel like or perform like, and I think that there's certainly some of that, to some extent, and I think it's, I think there's some truth to it. After putting with one for the first time in my life a few months ago, I was shocked at how well I could putt with it. And being not a very good putter, I was very pleasantly surprised.
Well, and I think you hit it on the head a few moments ago. The importance of being properly fitted all the way around, whether it be with your clubs, the golf ball, and even with your putter. It's a personal,
no doubt.
Experience, if you will, and you need to do that. And it's great to be loyal to brands, but at the same time, you need to make sure that you're getting the best equipment for you and for your game while you're out there playing to get the most enjoyment of it. Jim, just to wrap up here before we let you go, because we're just a little bit over time, but that's not a problem. For those that maybe want to come out and find out more information about where Callaway Demo Day is going to be in their area, where can they go to find out more information? And just quickly let us know when that new driver's coming out.
The best thing to do would be either to try your PGA Pro or try CallawayGolf.com and look for the Demo Day section on the website. Most of the guys post anything that's not private. So in other words, not a private country club is posted on the internet, so you can see it right on our website. If you want a private event at your own club, chat with your pro and find out. New drivers, new products going to be out August 28th. Through the middle of September. So we have kind of a gradual rollout going through there like that.
Perfect. Sounds good. And I'm sure you're going to have a few holdbacks for the PGA show in January?
We will, actually. We have another small rollout that we have coming. Probably it's going to start to ship end of October, maybe November, somewhere in there.
Right.
And then we'll have a big splash at the PGA show. We've got more fun stuff coming there. So the train keeps rolling, my friend.
Well, listen, Jim, thank you very much for joining us. I wish we had a little bit more time. It's always interesting to find out and hear about some of the new things coming out, but also a little bit about the background of how Callaway really has become so successful, and it is a leader in golf. And we want to thank you for joining Cindy and I this morning on the Women of Golf.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, and absolutely anytime. I enjoyed it.
All right.
Thanks,
we would
Jim.
definitely love to have you back. Thank you very much, Jim. Thanks. Have a great day. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Great, man. I can understand why you enjoy having Jim, as it were, in your bag with great rep from Callaway, and you obviously enjoy your Callaway driver. So
I do.
Yeah.
I like hitting it farther and straighter.
Well, listen, Cindy, we're out of time. I know you got to go, and as do I. So on behalf of Cindy Miller and I, we would like to thank all of our guests once again, Beth Allen and Jim Yeager from Callaway. Thank you very much also to all of the listeners from around the world for tuning into the broadcast. We enjoy having you stop by. Remember, go to blogtalkradio.com, type in Women of Golf, and you can get to Cindy and I every week, Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Enjoy having you join us this week. And have a great week, and we will see you next week here on the Women of Golf. Thanks, and God bless everybody. Take care, Cindy. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.